Consonants in English. There are four features that identify an English consonant. These are voicing, aspiration, place of articulation, and manner of articulation. Voicing refers to whether or not the vocal cords vibrate when you pronounce the phone. Aspiration refers to whether or not there is a puff of air when you pronounce a phone. Place of articulation refers to which articulators are involved in producing the phone or the sound. Manner of articulation has to do with how close the articulators touch each other, or how do they touch each other. And related to that is the amount of air that is passed or blocked. So these are the four features that identify an English consonant. And we said that the first one is voicing. But before that, let me clarify that in the case of English consonants, they are all produced with aggressive lung air, meaning they are produced by having air come out of the lungs. Okay? Now, it's possible in other sounds in other languages, there is ingressive lung air, meaning it goes inside. The air, instead of going outside of the lungs, they go inside. Like if you have both in English, there's such a consonant which is the opposite of that. Yeah, yeah. That's a valid sound in other languages. There's also consonants produced with air coming from the pharynx. Okay, examples of they don't come from the lungs; it comes from the pharynx. So let me just clarify that in English, all consonants are produced with aggressive lung air. And there are four features that identify an English consonant: voicing, aspiration, place of articulation, and manner of articulation. Let's talk about voicing. Okay. Here we have here pairs of sounds in English, pairs of tones in English that are voiced and voiceless. The first pair are b, and p. B is voiced, p is voiceless. Is voiceless. Also, g and k, which are velar, are also pairs. G is voiced, is voiceless. D is voiced and t is voiceless. That's another pair. D and t. Okay? So b and p, g and k, d and t are plosives or stops. Then we also have fricatives that are pairs. One is voiced, the other one is voiceless. We have which is voiced and which is voiceless. We also have, by the way, the v and the f are labiodental. We also have the alveolar fricatives, z, which is voiced, and s, which is voiceless. So this pair are alveolar. One is voiced, z, the other is voiceless. Then we also have interdental fricatives or dental fricatives. We have the voiced one, which is z, the. Then we have the voiceless one, which is the is called the hard ph in pedagogy. The is called voice is called soft ph in pedagogy. Okay, so these are interdental fricatives. One is voiced, the other one is voiceless. Then we have the palatal fricatives. One is voiced, which is found in words like treasure, measure, seizure, vision, and mirage. The other one is voiceless. It's palatal, it's voiceless, it's a fricative. Okay? It's found in such words as shell, seashell, shall, shore. Okay, these are phones in English that are pairs. One is voiced, the other one is voiceless. We also have the affricates. These are palatal affricates. We have the j. The j starts out as a d, but it is released as a j. And it's voiced. It's palatal. It's a fricative. It has a voiceless equivalent, which is it starts out as a t, but is released as a sh. It's ch, ch. The j is found in words like judge, budge, grudge, ridge, edge. The ch is found in words like match, chance, which, matches. Okay, so that's the j and the ch. The ch, the j and the ch are affricates. They're not affricatives, by the way. Hindi affricatives. They're not affricatives. They're affricates. Then we have what we call the glottal stop. We don't worry too much whether it's voiced or voiceless. We just call it the glottal stop because the glottis is so near the vocal cords that their closing and opening affect the the vibration. Sometimes there's vibration, sometimes there's no. Now we have another glottal, but this one a fricative. This is a fricative. We have the sound represented usually by the letter H. It's glottal and it's a fricative. It's voiceless and it's a fricative and it is voiceless. Okay. Then we have the glides. We have the y and the y is usually represented by a Y. And we have words like yellow, yell, young, youth. That's with the y, which is voiced. Then we have the voiceless equivalent, which is. So I wish this was face to face so that I could test you if you could say it. So maybe in your own place you could touch your throat and say yeah, yeah, yeah. Now try to remove the voicing by saying. Now there are limited words with the and the examples are hue, H-U-E, and hue, H-U-G-E. And we also have the hue, which is the name of the person, H, capital H-U-G-H. So those three words are what I know to have that sound. Then we have the labial-velar glide, which is produced by circling, by rounding the lips, and by pulling the tongue back. That's why it's called labial-velar. Okay, labial-velar, not labial-dental, but labial-velar. Okay, the tongue approximately approaches the velum. So we have the whoop and its voiceless equivalent. So whoop is represented by usually by the letter W, but there are ways to represent it in spelling also. Okay. Then we have the sound. The foot, the sound is represented by an upside down W, and there are native speakers who make that sound when they pronounce the WH. Like what, quail, which. Okay, others, they pronounce it as quail, what, which. But other native speakers pronounce those FWH words with a voiceless, like what, which, quail. Okay, so without the letter W, a word as beautiful as waffle will simply be awful. Okay, that's the letter W, and that's the reason why we love it so much. Okay, now we have other sounds, but these don't have pairs in English, like the L, which is a liquid. It's voiced. It has a voiceless equivalent, but it's not found in English. It's found in the language called Nahuatl, which is the language of the Mayans, from which we borrowed several words, around 200 words, including the word palenque and amargoso, which is the word for bitter gourd or ampalaya in Cebuano. We also have the nasals, which are all voiced. By the way, in the case of the nasals, they're just like plosives, but the uvula is down, allowing air to pass through the nose. That's why they're called nasals. In the case of the two lips touch each other completely, preventing air from passing through the mouth, but the uvula is down, which means the air can pass through the nose. That's why we have the mm. In the case of the N, the alveolar ridge is touched completely by the tip of the tongue, preventing air from passing through the mouth. But the uvula is down, allowing air to pass through the nose. In the case of the Ng, the back of the tongue completely touches the velum or the soft palate. The velum is the soft palate. The palate is the hard palate. The velum is the soft palate. In the case of the back of the tongue completely touches the velum, preventing air from passing through the mouth, but the uvula is down, allowing air to pass through the nose. And these are all voiced in English, But there are voiceless equivalents like and 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 these are found in other languages like Burmese. So the word for buy in Burmese is huh, huh. So if you ask, do you want to buy something or what do you want to buy? You say ba mamale, ba mamale. Okay, these are nasals, and in English they're all voiced. Then we have the trill. It's also voiced. In the case of the trill, the articulators, the tongue tip or tongue blade, the tongue touches the alveolar ridge and release from it again and again. So and it's voiced. Then we have the flap in which the touching is only once. And as we said, it's voiced, but it's found in words where the t or the d find themselves in the middle of two vowels, like bitter, better. You have the word right, but you have the word writer. You have the word ride, but you have the word writer. So the distinction between the da and the ta disappears because they become flaps. Now, an exception to that is when the syllable is stressed, like in the word redoubt or redo. In those cases, you don't have the flap, but you retain the da because the second syllable is stressed. Finally, we have the retroflex R, which is like an upside down R. It's pronounced as a R. Now, normally in English and in many in British English, you use the R, but now the R in many words are being replaced by the R, like in the word forest. It used to be forest. Now, many native speakers pronounce it as forest, forest, in the forest. Okay, so the R is usually Spanish. Okay, but it's found its way into English and other European languages. The R, replacing the R. Okay, so we said that uh, there are four. There are four identifying features or components of an English consonant. And so we will add them here. So for example, for the sound B, this is voiced. This we add plus voice, meaning it's voiced. If it's voiceless, we would have minus voice. Now this sound is unaspirated, so it's minus asp or aspirate minus aspiration. But we put asp in order to shorten it. So it's minus asp, meaning it's unaspirated. And we know that it is bilabial. And so we say plus bilabial. It's a plosive. I like the word plosive, so I put it there. It's plus stop or plosive. So the b is plus voice, is voiced, unaspirated, bilabial, plosive. And it has a partner, an equivalent, which is voiceless. The okay. Now for the p, we write minus voice. It's unaspirated, so we write minus asp. But it's a close. It's a bilabial, so we write plus bilabial. Okay, plus bilabial. Okay, so the only difference between the b and the p is the voicing. B is voiced, p is voiceless. Now we also have in English the aspirated p, which occurs at the start of words like power, paper, pint, pit, power, paper, pit, hat. So this one is voiceless. It's plus asp, meaning it's aspirated. It's bilabial. So it's voiceless, aspirated, bilabial, plosive. Okay? It's voiceless, aspirated, bilabial, plosive. Then we have the d. D. It's also a stop. It's also a plosive. It's voiced. So we put plus voice. It's unaspirated. So we write minus asp. And it's alveolar, meaning the tongue tip touches the alveolar ridge when it is pronounced. And it's a plosive or a stop. So it's voiced, unaspirated, alveolar, plosive. Remember, class, the difference between the English the and Tagalog the is that the English the is pronounced with the tongue tip touching the alveolar ridge. In the case of the Tagalog ta or Tagalog the tongue tip touches the back of the teeth. That's the same thing with t and da of Tagalog. Okay? In the case of the English T, the tongue tip touches the alveolar ridge, but in Tagalog T, the tongue tip touches the back of the teeth. But we're talking here about the English the. So it's voiced, unaspirated, alveolar, plosive. When we meet face to face, I'll show you the symbol for the Tagalog the and Tagalog t. Okay? Now the the has a voiceless equivalent, which is the t. So this is voiceless. That's why we put minus voice. It's unaspirated. There's no puff of air. It's alveolar, not alveolar, and it's a plosive or stop. Voiceless, unaspirated, alveolar, plosive. The difference between the and t is the voicing. Then we have the t, which is aspirated, and it uh, occurs at the start of words like 10, time, 10, 2. Okay, so this one is voiceless. It's aspirated. There's an audible puff of air. It is alveolar and it's a plosive. It's a plosive. So voiceless, aspirated, alveolar, plosive. Then we have the g, which is velar. Okay, this one is voiced. So the g is voiced. So we write plus voice. It's unaspirated. So we write minus asp. And it's velar, meaning the back of the tongue touches the velum, also called the soft palate. That's why it's velar. So it's voiced, unaspirated, velar, plosive. It has a voiceless equivalent, which is the k. So the k is voiceless, so you write minus voice. It's unaspirated, there's no audible puff of air, and it is velar. Voiceless, unaspirated, velar, plosive. The difference between the g and the k is the voicing. Now we also have the k, which occurs at the start of words like can, coop, cower. Okay, it's aspirated, but it's voiceless. So we write minus voice. It's aspirated, so it's plus asp. It's velar, just like the unaspirated k. It's also velar, and it's a plosive. So it's voiceless, aspirated, velar, plosive. We described the four features of vowels of four features of consonants, and we stopped after we finished the stops or plosives. We'll now work on the fricatives. A fricative is a phone produced by the articulators touching each other but not completely, leaving a small hole through which air passes through, but there's friction. So fricatives are phones produced with friction. The air produces friction because it's just a small hole between the articulators. And we have the v. This is voice. So could you touch your throat and say v, and you need to feel that vibration. So it's voiced. It's unaspirated, so we write asp. And this one, the v, is produced by the lips and the teeth, particularly the lower lip, and the upper teeth. So it's labial, meaning lips, and dental, meaning teeth. So labiodental. So the v is voiced, unaspirated, labiodental fricative. It has a voiceless equivalent, which is the f. So touch your throat and say f. There should be no vibration. This is voiceless. This is also unaspirated, meaning there's no puff of air that accompanies it. It's labiodental. So voiceless, unaspirated labiodental fricative. Then we have the z, which is alveolar, and it's voiced. So when you say z, there should be vibration in your throat. So this is voiced. It is unaspirated. It's alveolar, meaning the tongue touches the alveolar ridge, but not completely, producing a small hole through which air passes through, but with friction. That's why it's called fricative. So this is voiced, unaspirated, alveolar fricative. It has a voiceless equivalent, which is the s. So the s is voiceless. It's unaspirated. It's alveolar, and it's a fricative. Voiceless, unaspirated, alveolar, fricative. Okay? Then we have the hard th. The. This sound is produced with the tongue coming between the upper and lower lips. Okay, this one is voiced. So when you produce the th, there is vibration in your throat. The vocal cords vibrate. It's unaspirated. There's no audible puff of air. And it is interdental. So remember, inter means between, dental means teeth. So this is produced with the tongue coming between the upper and lower teeth. So that's why it's called interdental. Now you can also just call it dental. Okay, so this is voiced, unaspirated, interdental, fricative. And in pedagogy, it's called the hard th. It has a voiceless equivalent represented by the symbol theta. By the way, you can get the middle line all the way touching this, the sides of the ellipse. It's just I couldn't find a sound that a symbol that touches uh, the other sides completely. So this is a theta representing the soft th, which is the voiceless, unaspirated, interdental or dental fricative. So this is voiceless, unaspirated, interdental fricative. We also have the palatal fricative, the zh, and it's found in words like vision, seizure, treasure, measure, and mirage. By the way, this is not j, this is j. It's palatal and it's voiced. So this one is voiced. So when you say, can you touch your throat and say, j, you should feel a vibration of your vocal cords. It's unaspirated. It's palatal. We say it's palatal because the blade of the tongue touches the palate, or what we call the hard palate, the roof of the mouth. So it's voiced, unaspirated, palatal, fricative. Because it's fricative because the tongue blade touches the palate, but not completely, producing a small hole through which air passes through with friction. So this is voiced, unaspirated, palatal fricative. It has a voiceless equivalent in English, which is the sh. It's found in words like shell, shawl, shoe. Okay? So this one is voiceless. It's unaspirated and it is palatal. So the sh is voiceless, unaspirated, palatal, fricative. Now we have what we call the affricates, the j and the ch. Let's start off with the j, which starts off as a plosive d, but is released as a j. So it starts out as a d, but it is released as a fricative. Okay, so j. It's found in words like judge, ridge, budge, smudge. The j is voiced, it's unaspirated, it's palatal. The blade of the tongue touches the palate, but it's an affricate, so it starts out as a plosive, It's released as a j. Now in English, it has a voiceless equivalent, which is the ch, found in words like catch, champion, witches. Okay? So this is voiceless, unaspirated, palatal, African. So the ch is voiceless, unaspirated, palatal, affricate. Its equivalent is its voice equivalent is the j, which is voice unaspirated, palatal, affricate. The ch starts out as a t, is released as a sh. So it's voiceless, unaspirated, palatal, affricate. Class in the Philippines, we have the t, which starts out as a t, but is released as a s. And it's found in words like super, saa, chinelas. But that sound is disappearing in Filipino. It's being replaced by ch. So we say chuper, chaa, and chinelas in Tagalog. But in Cebuano and other Visayan languages, I think that ch is still existing. But we don't have that in English. In English, we only have the affricates j and ch. Those are the only two affricates in English. Then we have the glottal stop. We just call it glottal stop because we have the glottal stop, which is glottal and it's a plosive. It's produced by the glottis in the throat. And the glottis is very near the vocal cords, so it affects the vibration of the vocal cords. Sometimes the glottal produces, sometimes there is vibration of the vocal cords, sometimes there's none, because the glottis is too near the vocal cords. So we just call it the glottal stop or the glottal stop. Okay. Then we have the glottal fricative, which is the, by the way, they're not equivalent. Okay. Now this one is voiceless. It's unaspirated. It's glottal, and it's a fricative. Voiceless, unaspirated, glottal, fricative. Then we have the glide. Yeah, it's called a glide because it exists between two vowels, actually. The yeah. And it's found in words like yellow, foyer. Okay. Now the y is voiceless. Can you touch your throat and say yeah, yeah? So you feel a vibration. The vocal cords vibrate. So this is voiced. It's unaspirated. It's palatal. It's a palatal glide. And it is a glide. Okay. It's voiced, it's unaspirated, it's palatal, it's a glide. Okay. It has a voiceless equivalent, which is the. So first, I would like you to pronounce the y. Touch your throat and say y. Now try to remove the vibration by saying okay. This is voiceless. Okay, it's unaspirated, it's palatal, and it's a glide. And we have some words that have the like hue, humor, and huge. Okay, hue, humor, and huge. It's voiceless, it's unaspirated, it's palatal, it's a glide. Now, the glides in pedagogy are called semi-vowels. They're glides, they're called semi-vowels because almost all the air is released. Only a little air is blocked. That's why they're called semi-vowels. Okay, so these are palatal glides, the y and the h. Then we have the labiovelar lines, like the w and the. I hope you like the song that we sang a while ago. This one is voiced, unaspirated, labiovelar. It's labiovelar because it's produced in two ways. It's produced using two ways. First, you round your lips. That's why it's called labial. And you pull back your tongue. The back of the tongue approaches the velum. So that's why it's called labiovelar. And it's a glide or semi-vowel. And it has a voiceless equivalent, which is pronounced in sometimes in words with the WH letters, like what, whale, white. Okay, so this one is voiceless. It's unaspirated. It's labial, meaning lips, velar, because the back of the tongue approaches the velum. And it is a glide. Okay, so these are glides, the y and ch, w and p. Then we have the l, which is a liquid. Okay, we have the l, which is a liquid. It's a liquid because the hole between the articulators is big enough such that there's no friction resulting. This one is voiced. It's unaspirated. It's alveolar. L, l, and it is a liquid. It's voiced. It's unaspirated. It's alveolar, meaning the tongue tip touches the alveolar ridge, and it's a liquid because the articulators touch each other, but the hole between them is big enough to not to have a friction, not to have friction. There's no friction because the hole is big enough. Again, there's a version, there's an equivalent of this. There's a voiceless equivalent, but it's not found in English. Okay. Then we have the nasal. This is voiced. It's unaspirated. It's bilabial. It's bilabial. Hmm. Produced by the upper and lower lips. And it is a nasal. Why is it a nasal? Because the uvula is down, allowing the air to pass through the nose. So the upper and lower lips completely touch each other, preventing air from passing through the mouth, but the uvula is down, allowing air to pass through the nasal cavity and outside of the nose. That's why it's called a nasal. And all nasals in English are voiced. Voiced, in this case, we have the voiced, unaspirated, bilabial, nasal. Then we have the alveolar nasal. This one is voiced. It's unaspirated. It's alveolar. Okay? It's alveolar. The tongue touches the alveolar ridge completely, preventing air from passing through the mouth. But the uvula is down, so the air passes through the nasal cavity and out of the nose. That's why it's called nasal. So this is voiced, unaspirated, alveolar nasal. Then we have the velar nasal. This one is voiced, unaspirated, velar. It's velar because the back of the tongue touches the velum completely, preventing air from passing through the mouth. But the uvula is down, allowing air to pass through the nasal cavity and out of the nose. That's why it's called a nasal. So this one is voiced, unaspirated, velar nasal. Again, all nasals in English are voiced. Then we have the trill. It's voiced. It's voiced. It's unaspirated. It's it's alveolar, and it's a trill. It's a trill because the articulators touch and move away from each other again and again. So this is an alveolar trill. Again, this is usually found in Spanish, but it has found its way into other European languages, including English, where it's gradually replacing the usual R. It's now pronounced R, like forest is now being pronounced as forest. It's a trill. Now, there are many other kinds of trills, class. You have the bilabial trill. That's the bilabial trill. You have the uvular trill, which is found in French. Ah, ah, ah. Okay, that's the uvular trill, but it's not found in English. It's found in French. What we have in English is the alveolar trill. And if you only do it once, it's called the flap. So it's voiced, unaspirated, alveolar flap. It's a flap because the articulators quickly touch and move away from each other. Ruh, ruh. So the tongue tip touches the alveolar ridge and then moves away quickly. Ruh. And it's found whenever the d and t find themselves between vowels and the syllable is not stressed, like writer, better, better, creativity, creative. Okay, this is the voiced, unaspirated alveolar flap. Then finally, we have the retroflex R. R. This is voiced. This is unaspirated. This is alveolar. And this is retroflex. It's retroflex because the tongue is bent backwards. So this is the voiced unaspirated alveolar retroflex. And it's represented in English usually with an R. Okay. So these are the consonants that we have in English.